The shooter's heart was full of hate. Police give new details about the Minnesota gunman who shot up a church full of children. His meticulous planning. Plus, shut it down. An Obama judge rejects a Trump administration appeal to keep Alligator Alcatraz open. And want to know how teachers' unions are spending their money? I'll tell you, and here's a hint. It's not on school supplies. Those stories and more today, Friday, August 29th. I'm Caitlin Becker, and this is the New York Postcast. The plan to dismantle Alligator Alcatraz is moving forward despite a last-ditch effort by the Department of Homeland Security. The alliteratively named Florida Detention Center had been earmarked by the Trump administration to house as many as 4,000 illegal migrants after expansion plans. Those were halted by the courts. And last week, an Obama-appointed judge said the facility could no longer admit new detainees and ordered parts of it to be dismantled. This was after a lawsuit was filed by several environmental groups and the Miccosukee tribe. Wednesday's ruling by that same judge came in response to the administration's bid to stay her order on the emptying of the facility while the original judgment is appealed. The detention center located in the Florida Everglades must be dismantled in the next 60 days. A source tells the Post that the current detainee population there sits at just 100. Judge Kathleen Williams ruled that Homeland Security lawyers didn't provide a compelling reason to justify a detention facility in this particular location, and that pausing operations at Alligator Alcatraz won't impact immigration enforcement goals. DHS said the agency is moving detainees to other facilities, but labeled Williams as a, quote, activist judge. Now to teachers' unions. The country's two largest teachers' unions have been pouring money into liberal advocacy groups to the tune of $43.5 million over a 2-year period. That's the finding of the conservative nonprofit called Defending Education, which pulled these figures largely from union disclosures to the Department of Labor. Some of it went to popular Democratic PACs focused on elections: House Majority PAC, Senate Majority PAC, Future Forward, and For Our Future Action Fund. But the group says that other chunks went directly to dark money organizations. Now, that's a term used for funds given to groups that can't really be tracked. The unions also gave large wads of cash to liberal-leaning causes, ranging from gun restrictions to racial equity to abortion access. And now, is ChatGPT safe for teens? This week, I told you how more Americans are turning chatbots into therapists. Now there's growing evidence teens are trying to turn ChatGPT into friends, and the results of that can be tragic and really hard to hear. A recent poll found 7 in 10 teens use AI as a companion, and 1 in 8 lean on ChatGPT or its AI cousins for mental health support. All of this information is happening as the parents of Adam Rain, a 16-year-old who took his own life, are trying to sue the company. The Rains claim in a wrongful death lawsuit that the chatbot gave their son a, quote, step-by-step playbook on how to commit suicide. The suit alleges that ChatGPT called Rain's plan to kill himself beautiful. He'd allegedly sent ChatGPT a picture of the noose he intended to use to hang himself. ChatGPT said the knot wasn't bad at all before recommending how to tie a stronger knot. I wish I could tell you the Rains family is unique. They are not. Other kids have followed ChatGPT down a similar dark path with similarly tragic results. So you can clearly see why this is worrying, especially when ChatGPT itself admits there are some problems with its AI and with safety guardrails designed to protect users who might be suicidal, which sometimes don't work in these scenarios. In a recent post on its website, ChatGPT said that its protections may fall short during longer conversations. Also this week, a bipartisan group of states' attorneys general penned an open letter to AI companies with a painfully simple request: don't hurt our kids. Now to our big story, picking up the pieces after the shooting at Annunciation Catholic Church.
We will never be allowed to hold him, talk to him, play with him, and watch him grow into the wonderful young man he was on the path to becoming.
That's Jesse Merkel. His son Fletcher was sitting inside the Minneapolis church when Robin Westman opened fire during a back-to-school mass on Wednesday. Just 4 minutes. That's how long it took for cops to arrive on the scene after the shooting started. Police recovered 3 shotgun shells and 116 rifle rounds at the scene. Westman's writings make excruciatingly clear that he meticulously planned the tragedy, and the level of detail here is chilling. The date, August 27th, specifically, it was chosen because of the all-school mass. The killer was betting that the front doors would be unlocked. He even planned out a Starbucks run before he would walk to the church to gun down the students inside. And he wrote what door he would try, door 22. Now, on motive, police didn't pinpoint one reason, but they say he hated everyone. No group or ethnicity was spared from his vitriol. But most of all, Westman hated children.
More than anything, the shooter wanted to kill children. Defenseless children.
Joining us now, the deputy managing editor of the New York Post, Michael Zenny. Michael, There's no making sense in a situation like this, but something that is on everyone's mind is why. So are authorities giving any details or indications about motive here?
Yeah, this is one where it seems like we actually know quite a bit about what this person was thinking leading up to this horrible shooting. So authorities have said, as far as they are concerned, it looks like he was doing everything in his power to inflict as much pain and suffering and damage as he possibly could. And that was, simply put, the biggest motivation for him targeting a school, a church full of children. He also left behind a really extensive manifesto, which we have poured over. And he repeatedly talks about how he targeted this specific school because he went there and he had staked it out and he knew the territory. And he also specifically targeted this mass that was happening on the second day of school because he believed that would be the most opportune target to inflict the highest amount of deaths.
It's so hard to hear you put it like that. And based on the reporting that we have on the Post, in addition to what you're kind of laying out here, there seems to me some really glaring warning signs that something was really wrong with this guy. Obviously, we know that now in hindsight. But am I wrong in thinking that in the moments, the months, the weeks leading up to this, there were maybe some signs that something wasn't right? Can you tell me a little bit more about the shooter? And I guess what looks to me like where I'm sitting, like a descent into madness.
Yeah, this is what we're seeing as well, based on his writings. But this is really the big remaining question, right? What's going on is that the family is not talking, and authorities are still really probing his life before this happened. What we do know is he attended at least 3 high schools, 2 of which were sort of schools for troubled youth. From the Catholic school that he ultimately ended up committing the shooting at, he went on to a charter school that's specifically for kind of troubled kids. He only lasted about 6 weeks there, moved on to a Catholic all-boys military academy. And what we don't know is sort of what the family was doing, what schools were doing to try to, treat or help this individual, right? We had heard, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Sorry. So we had heard from at least one classmate who spoke out, saying that as early as 7th grade, he was talking about Hitler in the hallways. Absolutely, really troubling stuff that should get you on some sort of radar. But at the same time,
how did you get the guns? Like, there was a whole arsenal there. And and I feel like that's a question we can't even answer at this point, but you see this arsenal, this cache of weapons from this YouTube video that was taken down. We know that this person showed up with a pistol, a rifle, and a shotgun. So how did someone who's gone to 3 schools in, as many years that were for troubled teens end up with weapons? It's mind-boggling.
Well, ultimately, the police said that they had not had contact with him previously, which really does beg the question, sort of what the family was doing. And one of the things that sort of stood out to us is that the mother, who we believe has moved out of state to Florida, is not talking to police. We know that the local police have reached out to her and attempted to speak to her, and she's not talking. So there are really a lot of unanswered questions here. We also know that he got the guns legally within the last few weeks. And, what sort of checks there might have been, whether there were any red flags raised, that's, we don't know about that yet. But these are questions that we're very much asking everyone we can.
So is that what happens now? I know from our side as reporters and from the media side, we want to answer these questions. But from an investigative side, what happens? I mean, is this going to try to talk to the mother, who you said is not cooperating? And then, of course, there's the question of what happens in a broader sense, because whenever tragedies like these, go down, and they happen far too often, politicians all jump in and suggest some sort of change, on both sides of the aisle, depending which way they land.
Yeah, so what you're really seeing here is unfortunately a sort of predictable political split here, right? So you've got Mayor Jacob Frey, who it might be a recognizable name from the Black Lives Matter protests in Minneapolis. He is running for re-election, and he has very much been out front calling for assault weapons bans, calling for magazine limits, gun control. On the other side of the aisle, you've got people talking about his identity, right? His identity coming out as trans as a teenager, right? And whether that played a role. And, in the meantime, you've got this community in the middle that is, the vigils are still ongoing. And the other thing that's next is funerals. We have 2 funerals, and we also have multiple little kids who are still in the hospital in really precarious positions.
And I want to talk about those little kids, these victims. The students that were in this church were forced to be brave for this horrific reason. And we know that they were trained students that had been in active shooter drills. What more do we know about what went on at the scene? Because there have been some of these really heart-wrenching stories of heroes, little heroes.
Yeah, I mean, the one really wild point that I wanted to sort of point out is that part of the reason that this was not much more horrific is that they had locked the front doors of the church during Mass, which is something that they have taken the habit of doing. Unfortunately, that's something you have to do. And so the front doors were locked. He couldn't get in. Then you have stories about one friend who dove on top of another and took a bullet for him. The one that's going to sit with me as a dad for a long time is we've got a neighbor who rushed over and described a stream of wounded kids running out of the school, and one little girl who apparently had been shot in the head saying, "Could you please just hold my hand?" This is the stuff that keeps us all up at night. And fortunately, it looks like this girl hasn't been named, but it looks like she is going to survive after surgery.
It brings tears to my eyes to hear what these children had to go through, and to know that there's still going to be so much recovery for them physically, mentally, emotionally in the future. Michael Zenny, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, we need to get to something lighter. It is Friday after all, so naturally, I will need to turn to our friends at Page Six. The Royals are just like us. Well, kind of, not really. Many a good parent will often shield their children from information that might be emotionally taxing for their little minds. And in an interview with People published on Thursday, a royal biographer revealed that's exactly what Prince William and Kate Middleton did with their eldest, Prince Prince George. Only when they do it with a crown. The thing that they were protecting the little prince from is the knowledge that he's destined to rule. The biographer claims that the royal couple delayed telling George that he's going to be king until the last possible moment. The assumption is that William wanted to preserve as much of George's childhood as possible, heavy as the head that wears the crown and all that. It's all apparently part of Will and Kate's commitment to raise a more modern set of future royals, and they already strayed from palace tradition by sending George to a co-ed day school. And finally, so you're saying there's a chance. Lotto players across the country struck out again this week. No winning ticket was sold for Wednesday night's Powerball drawing, which means the pot just got even bigger. You see, we're in a luck drought of sorts right now. Nearly 3 months have gone by without some rando picking the perfect numbers. The current jackpot is crazy big. $950 million big. That's the annuity. If you want the lump sum cash option, that's a bit less, a measly $428.9 million. Chump change, am I right? While no one won the big kahuna, 3 players did walk away with $2 million for winning the match 5 plus power play option. Now, that actually does sound like chump change in comparison to nearly $430 million. The next Powerball drawing is Saturday night. Good luck, my friends. I would be such a good rich person, I swear. I wouldn't try to go explore the Titanic or anything like that. I would rescue puppies and swim backward through a pool of gold coins like Scrooge McDuck. Normal stuff. Drop a list of whatever you would buy, an over-the-top purchase that you would get if you won the lottery in the comments. And don't say pay off debt or donate it. I want to see diamond dust covered trash cans on this list. While you're there, like and follow the New York Postcast on your favorite podcast app and YouTube. It helps other people discover our podcast, and we don't want to be selfish and keep it just for us. And then while you're at it, mosey over to the New York Post in print or online, and have a great Labor Day weekend, guys.